fourth estate of the REM. Good afternoon. You are once again welcome to the national headquarters of the Department of State Services. Since the COVID, we haven't gathered like this, and the essence of inviting a handful of just a sizable number of persons is to stick to the COVID protocols. That is why it wasn't so large. So for your colleagues and others who may be disappointed for not being invited, please, it is not because any institution or outfit is more important than the other. Maybe at another time, if we're going to have an opportunity like this, we'll also select another group of persons so that every person gets across to us, or we get across to everyone and inform as we should. So extend our compliments to every other person, our colleagues and our partners who definitely are not here. And endeavor, please, to syndicate the news and share with some of your colleagues who are not here. We also know that the COVID had been a challenge to each and every one of us in one way or the other. Luckily, or so, it's not an issue that has affected only one person. It's widespread, it's global, and we can only continue to endure in the mercy and grace of God, hoping that solutions will come forthwith. For our colleagues, the security people, media people who are in the front lines, discharging their duties at very odd times in circumstances and situations, those who may have lost their lives in the course of execution of their duties, may their souls rest in perfect peace. We have invited you to let you know that before now, Nigerians, and in fact our service, have been inundated with inquiries, questions as to how and why a certain syndicate operates from some quarters in the country. Specifically, on almost on regular basis, we have received information from members of the public, some VIPs, to clarify or give them a guidance on a certain invitation by some people who said they were acting on behalf of the Chief of Staff or the Presidency or Office of the SGF or that of the NSA in terms of appointments. They should forward their CVs and pay vetting fees, clearance fees, and be given a certain appointment. And I know very well that it became a thing of concern to our service as a security organization that is meant to do what? Secure Nigeria, to ensure the internal security of the country. And for us, every aspect of security, every aspect of what we need to do, measures that we need to put in place to ensure that citizens are pursuing their businesses legitimately, or their legitimate businesses without hindrances of any kind. And this is why in every facet of security, we try to pay attention. And when one person had reported that this syndicate, who supposedly said they were acting on behalf of the Chief of Staff, contacted him and demanded for the sum of $50,000 to facilitate an appointment for him as SA to the President on oil and gas. There was an apprehension, there was anxiety as to whether that group was actually acting on behalf of the Chief of Staff. The name of the person is Mohammed Prince Momo, someone from Olamaboro in Kogi State, Nigeria, of course. He was acting in sync, in collaboration with other persons who, some of who are at large, and some others who are still undergoing a series of inquiries. The Prince Mohammed Momo, who I have told you is from Kogi State, engaged, had worked for someone in the villa before as an errand, just as a support staff, as an aide. So having a slight knowledge of workings of the environment, he decided to take up his games. And what he did was, in working with his group, he posed as a security detail to the Chief of Staff, and they got talking with this particular person, Benson Anyogo. Benson Anyogo is a victim who was the syndicate had tried to defraud of $50,000. Benson Anyogo is from Bayelsa State, and this group had approached him. And what we have continued to tell Nigerians and everyone is that if you were not in talks with appointing authorities, if there was no plan for you, somebody wouldn't suddenly, if you were not seeking an appointment, if you were not planning for an appointment, somebody will suddenly call you up to ask you to pay a certain amount of money because your name had been penciled down for an appointment. In the era of technology and the proliferation of the internet, you would agree with me that some information exists, freely on the internet platforms. And that is why we also want that, or advise that people who use social media should know the kind of information you drop in the space. You should also know the kind of friends and the contacts you are relating with. Otherwise, there are people who are just talking, who are by the side, harvesting information to use it to defraud unsuspecting people who are gullible, people who are vulnerable, people who, for one reason or the other, fall victims to the fraud. So the man in question now possibly was conscious enough to know that this set of people were fraudulent. And he did what a patriotic citizen should do, alerted authorities, and in a sting operation that was conducted by the service, the people were nabbed, particularly the ring leader, Prince Momo, who impersonated to be an aide of the Chief of Staff, who impersonated to be a security detail, who posed, and of course led his team to the house of the victim in Abuja here to collect $50,000. $25,000 he said was going to the chief of staff, and $25,000 he said will go to some boys who would help. That is not true. Our findings, our investigations, and every diligence that has been deployed to this investigation has revealed that they never, as a group, collectively, individually, acted on behalf, they never acted on behalf or for the chief of staff. And that is why we think that this press briefing is very important, so that Nigerians will be aware that this syndicate exists. This is not the first time we are nabbing anyone of such. We will continue to look inwards. We will continue to disrupt the activities of these elements. We will continue to contain the activities. We will continue to identify, contain, mitigate whatever risk they pose to national security, and we'll continue to do all that is needful and within the Nigerian law to ensure that no citizen is, at least no law-abiding citizen, is taken advantage of by another person who has chosen to be a pervert, another person who has chosen to be a risk to others. I want to, on behalf of my DG and the service, reassure the entire nation, residents and citizens, that the DSS, as a responsible, foremost domestic intelligence agency in Nigeria, will continue to perform its duties without any fear in this regard. At this juncture, I'd want to introduce or bring before the press Prince Mohammed Momo. Mohammed Momo, yes, please, you can stand there, please. Mohammed Momo, like I have earlier mentioned, is from Kogi State. Mohammed Momo is at the head of a syndicate that went to defraud a certain Benson Aniogu from Bayelsa State with the promise that they were acting on behalf of the chief of staff, and had also planned to make the man part with $50,000 as kickback or whatever to help them facilitate his appointment as SA to the president on oil and gas. You will agree with me that this is not the only situation we have, that, you know, this syndicate operates, and this is also not the first we have thwarted or disrupted. Our reassurance to Nigerians is that we'll continue to do the same in the course of our discharging our duties. Thank you very much, and thank you for coming. Yes, that is with us. There is one Mike Omo, right? And one Monday. They are his syndicate members. They are at large, but justice will come against them. They can run, but they will sure will not run far. Sooner than later, we'll bring them to justice. Yes, please.
Okay. Say what?
Children.
Okay, one wife, two.
Children.
Two.
The service has just made an allegation against you. What do you mean about it?
Well, it's very unfortunate.
What's unfortunate? Is it true? Is it true? Or what did you do? What brought you here?
It's true.
What exactly is true? What did you do?
I collected a CV belonging to a young man from Bayelsa State to help him submit in the State House for appointment.
Was it your first action, or have you been doing it?
How long have you worked in the villa?
That was the previous government,
When was it?
2013, 2014.
So how many people's CV have you collected?
No, I have not.
This is just the first one.
Yes.
This opportunity to call on well-meaning and law-abiding Nigerians and indeed citizens to be cautious, to avoid being desperate, not to fall victims to fraud and fraudsters, to be wary and indeed ask questions when and where they need to. We want to ask again that for every suspicion of crime, please relate with appropriate security agencies, pass information timely to them so that the needful can be done. People should not fall victims to avoidable situations, desperation, greed, and circumstances that can lead to any person to part with their hard-earned resources is not good. For those who are very conscious and enlightened and are like the victim who acted promptly by relating his experience that enabled an appropriate security action to be planned so that the victim will be nabbed. That's what we are recommending to others to follow. And if we do all of this, Nigeria will be peaceful. Thank you very much. Yes, please. Yeah, why not? The course of justice will be full.
I don't know why you noted the date he was arrested.
He was arrested on the June. Yeah, June 28th. Yeah? Yes, in Abuja here. He was arrested on June 28th. All procedures for criminal justice was followed, and while the investigations were ongoing, to the extent that we have come to this point, he has also admitted they made the first contact to the man on the 5th of June. That was the first time they contacted Benson Agiobu. Benson Agiobu, and by 28th of June, he was arrested.
I don't know if you're pushing too hard, sir. I don't know, from the interrogation, have you established whether this is his first involvement in such acts?
And also a follow-up to that, the victim, did he by any chance was he seeking any form of appointment before they approached him, or he was just approached randomly?
I have made a point here. They harvest information from any source, and he has agreed that he was around government, and I've also said he was an aide to a former official in the villa, and he had understood slight workings of administration in that.
No, I'm actually talking about the victim that he tried to kill.
No, that is what we are saying. That's how they operate most times. You don't need to solicit, and that is also what raised suspicion to the man. He was not seeking appointment of such. Maybe they will use what you think would entice you, coming from Bayelsa, being told that he will be made SA on oil and gas seems to be attractive to him. But some other persons would have completely fallen to it. There are several people elsewhere, every day, young people owed 4 victims to crimes of this nature. When someone calls you and asks you to give your account details, your BVN, and all of that. And that is also what prompted the service to recently produce a manual on a security guide on consciousness and anti-kidnapping tips. That is part of our security education, mobilizing citizens to be security conscious, to be good partners in security management, so that what they say, see something, say something, becomes a reality, and to ensure that every citizen is part and parcel of the security management architecture. It is not every time that you want to blame government in all of this. If all of us as citizens come up with the information we have and pass it appropriately, I think Nigeria will be good for it.